All mills are grinders, but not all grinders are mills. Let me explain what I mean. So I get a lot of questions about my mill. What did it cost? Where did I get it? And I always try to answer those and refer people to where I got mine. Now, that being said, this is a higher end grain mill for home flour milling. And I understand that the big hurdle for a lot of people is the money investment in a good quality grain mill. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. It's going to be a little bit long, so hang in there with me. But if you're really curious about grinding your own wheat at home and you're really like, well, Amber, what's the difference between the $100 mill I'm seeing on TikTok Shop, an attachment for my KitchenAid, or something, you know, a little higher end? And I'm going to try to hit the highlight points for you. This is a Komo Classic. This is perfect for my family size, 4 to 6 people. It mills really quickly. I have flour fineness adjustment by shifting the bowl hopper here. I can change that fineness of my flour very easily. That can also be done in the NutriMill Harvest, the mock mill lines. Those are all stone mills that can grind your wheat. And so I'm going to shift gears a little bit and I'm going to talk about the lower end options. So you may have seen people using a KitchenAid attachment. A few pros and cons to that. Pro, $150 brand new. A lot of times you can find them on Facebook Marketplace. I see those regularly. You can adjust the fineness of your flour on that mill, and it can go into a machine that you potentially already own, and you don't have to, you know, reinvest in another expensive machine. Cons to that one is I see people talk about the fineness not being consistent, so having to regrind potentially, and potentially burning up their KitchenAid motor depending on how much bread they're making. So take those things into consideration when looking at that about $150 option for your KitchenAid. The other option, a little bit cheaper still, is the, I'm going to say this with air quotes, grain mill that you see on TikTok Shop. That is a $100 high-speed blender, or maybe you could even reference it as an impact mill. The difference is something like that is really just a grinder, and a grinder is an umbrella term that you can use to basically cover anything that pulverizes food, and that's what that does. It pulverizes your grain into flour, and you may have to sift that, so taking the flour out, sifting out what didn't grind fine enough, and then reprocess that so that you get all of the nutrients from the bran and the germ, because you don't want to sift anything out of your flour. So from what I've seen other creators using that, it's a really affordable option. It's a great way to start, but there's lots of steps as far as cleaning it and regrinding and sifting. And for me, that just wasn't really what I was looking for when I looked to starting milling. It also can potentially overheat your grains. And for me, that was also a big con, because I wanted to ensure that I wasn't overheating the grains when milling to protect the nutrients and the flavor and the texture of the grains. So some pros and cons of the affordable, vevor mill are price. Obviously, you can get that under $100. You can get started right away because it's very, affordable price point. But the cons for me are it may overheat your grain. You may have to remill your grains after sifting. Really just a high-speed blender or an impact mill. So hear me out. If you already own a Ninja blender, if you already own a Vitamix, that's basically the same thing. So just take that into consideration. It's not truly a mill. Think more spice grinder, coffee grinder, just a higher wattage, higher power motor. So just know what you're getting. If you're spending $100, I don't want you to waste $100 on something and then you hate the process because now you're sifting and you have to work in batches to grind enough flour to make a loaf of bread. So if price is more important, then go with that option. If the ease of dumping your grains in here and having a fine flour come out in less than 5 minutes and getting your bread started, then save your money, work a little harder long term to save that money and purchase the mill that you really, really want. Personally, for me, that's more important. I would rather not have something for 6 months and save for it than spend $100 on something I'm going to want to replace in a year because it wasn't really what I wanted. That's just my 2 cents. So I prefer something that has a quality warranty. This has a 12-year warranty. Everything else on the market I can find is a 5 to 6 year warranty for a stone mill. So Komo for me kept grain cool, had the finest flour setting that I could find for a stone mill, and had the best warranty. So that's why I chose the mill that I chose. I'm gonna look over my notes real quick just to see if I missed anything I wanted to touch base on. Really, this one just, preserved the flavor, the nutrients, and the texture of the grains that I was looking to mill, and that's why I chose the mill I chose. Yes, this is a higher end option. There are other stone mills out there that are in the $300 range that the NutriMill you can get refurbished around $299. You can get the mock mill lines for that $300, $350 range. So you don't have to buy the most aesthetic, the most expensive grain mill out there. But if you're going to spend the $100, I would urge you to maybe save for that $300 range a little bit longer so that you can get a really good quality flour without all the added steps. So I hope that makes sense. I get a lot of questions on where I got my mill and the price point being a big hurdle. So I understand that that's a huge component into getting started with fresh milled flour. So hear me out when I say, if you can start with $100, attachment for your KitchenAid mixer, do that. Start there. It's worth it. I promise it's worth it to get started. You can always watch Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you'll catch one, somewhere, and you'll get you'll score a deal on one somewhere, and or save, a little longer, or put it on your Christmas list. Tell your family that's what you're wanting, for your birthday, and a little bit of money here and there and put towards your grain mill will go a long ways, because something that lasts for, the rest of my life, I hope I can pass this down to my kids. It's worth the investment.